Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. This time we're going to be having a look at questing gear in Warlords of Draenor, and it's actually, well, I think it's a little bit of a mixed bag, though I really do like some of the sets, so overall it's definitely varied, and I'm sure that a lot of things are going to appeal to quite a few people's different tastes. And let's start off with cloth, and, well, this cloth set, this is the first of the two cloth sets, by the way. I think that it is pretty good, actually. Now, bear in mind, this male character obviously doesn't have a shirt on underneath that armor, or perhaps there's a missing texture there. So, wow, that is interesting. What are you doing? Sorry, browser acting up on me. Anyway, I think that this is going to be okay once they fill out the arms and they fill out the kind of chest area and stuff like that, or I guess that's more the abdomen area. Still, I think that once this is fully fleshed out with full-on like texture with everything, I think it'll be great. As for the helm, I kinda like the helm. Once again, it's a horn helm, that's a thing. And I think the back is definitely rather shoddy, actually. I think the back could do with improvement, but perhaps that would come in the form of a cloak or something like that. Actually, looking into this guy, I think that this particular recolor here, the white one, looks really well. I'd imagine you'll get that in Frostfire Ridge. That would certainly make a lot of sense to me. And overall, it's a really nice color palette, and I like how warm those, it's kind of warm looking, those pauldrons or shoulders feel. I think that really is a very nice touch. So overall, this set's looking pretty good. This one, of course, doesn't have a finished texture there, but I think it's looking rather solid. You'll notice that there is a difference between the shoulders. They're not really symmetrical. They're different colors, kind of. That's okay. I generally prefer symmetry in my armor, but I get the kind of vibe they're going for. You know, it's very savage, and because things are savage, we cannot have symmetry. Okay, so let's move on to the next cloth one. Well, I think that last one wasn't really meant to be sort of worn topless, but this certainly is. You've got runes in the skin. That's interesting. It's a bit of a different touch, really, with armor. And I think this is a set that's odd. It's going to certainly like appeal to some people, yeah, but to me, not that much. I generally like a bit of armor that kind of, well, covers you up in everything, like covers you up in a sheet of steel or a sheet of plate mail or something like that. Or not a sheet of plate mail, that, you know, full-on armor. And especially when you're sort of, you know, running around the Frostfire Ridge and places like that where it's pretty darn cold. I'd imagine you just get a bit nippy in one of these, wouldn't you? Yeah, so not really too much of a fan of this bit. I'm guessing is there's maybe some sort of shaman could look well with this, or a warlock? I think mainly a warlock. The helm, though, is rather cool, I suppose. That's definitely, I'd say, something that people could really get into. It does look pretty evil, I guess. And color palette-wise, I think none of them are particularly interesting for this first cloth set. Okay, let's move on to leather, and leather is an entirely different story. I think this looks really fantastic. Now, they're kind of going out of the bounds of leather in that there's some metal there, the helm's got some metal on it. There's a bit of metal going on here. So that's maybe... I don't know if that's unfortunate, but I think it's okay. At the end of the day, what matters is the aesthetic of the piece of armor works, and I think this one certainly does. This is a really nice bit of leather armor. I like the color palette of that first one. I know I just moved on there, but it's nice and leathery, which of course makes sense because it's leather. And as for this one, once again, really cool. I like the way the shading works out with this armor. It certainly makes it feel quite, I don't know, like there's a lot going on, but it's not ultra cluttered in terms of the level of detail. I think it's a really nice balance, actually. And then finally we have this black set. I think it's really cool. I especially like the chest plate. I'd imagine that like just the chest plate and then these like that part of the legs could go well with some sort of like black sword or something. I don't know. There's definitely a transmog in there. And as for the shoulders, I think they're fine. Once again, you know, they've got horns on them. The helm itself, I don't know. Could you see out of that thing? I'm not 100% sure. Though from the back, the helm doesn't look too solid, but still, I think a lot of players do care about the front. Oh, no, wait. I would think that was just the camera angle. Or maybe it's just my eyes failing. No, you can see out of this. And maybe, I don't know. Look, I think this is a pretty nice bit of armor, actually. This is definitely one of the nicer ones that I've seen, and it ranks quite highly. Okay, so next we have this leather set. I think it's pretty good. The shoulder, the kind of asymmetry is interesting. It's okay. I don't particularly mind either way. And I like the way this, it looks kind of like chipped leather. Like it's old, it's hard leather, it's just kind of chipped away and hacked at over the years. And I think that does result in a very cool aesthetic. I think the helm's quite nice as well. Actually, I really do like the kind of front opening of the helm. It looks roguish. And honestly, this is a bit of leather armor that probably would make a little bit of sense on a rogue. It wouldn't look ridiculous like some of the crazy shiny things we've got in the past. So that's definitely nice to see. And then as for this final recolor, I think it's actually pretty good. There's at least a bit of difference there between the white and the dark blue / navy color. I think that's very important. And maybe this one here, the first recolor, was just too much of a similar color palette. At least this one has just got more of like a splash of variation to it, which I think is definitely very welcome. Okay, so next, let's have a look at the male sets that have been data mined so far. And first of all, well, we have this one. I think this is really nice, actually. And what's cool about it is that it's, okay, maybe not like 100% realistic, but it is not ridiculously over the top. There's a lot of mail on the armor, and honestly, it just looks like a bit of mail armor that's been sort of reinforced, a little spot of leather here, leather there, and in fact, it does look like a lighter piece of armor than some of the leather that we've seen, which is a little bit odd, but overall, I think it's definitely quite cool. I did like that first recolor there, I think it's pretty cool. This second one, I'm less of a fan of, basically because it's a little bit more washed out and the color palette's very samey throughout the whole thing. That's a bit unfortunate. In terms of the piece of armor itself, though, I like the fact that there's no WWE belt. As always, I like the kind of fur that's surrounding everything. It just makes the armor feel kind of cozy and designed for people. And then shoulders-wise, I actually think the shoulders are quite reasonable in this one, and they definitely do the job very nicely. Then finally we have this recolor, which honestly doesn't do a great deal for me, but hey, look, whatever. It's a piece of armor, it's going to be a questing thing, you'll be done with it soon enough, so let's move on to the next bit of mail armor. Now this does look like soft plate, but as you can see, it's certainly got plates of steel or iron, whatever, but it does have plenty of mail on it. Now, as you can also see, this is continuing the trend of asymmetric shoulders. I'm not 100% sure if I like this idea. I don't want Blizzard to overdo it and, put it onto every bit of armor. I don't think that would be a great idea. And I think this piece overall does look pretty decent, though. I like the helm quite a bit, actually. I think that really is quite cool. And I, once again, just like the way it's all looking kind of padded. Lots of nice fur, and it just looks a little bit more practical. Now this bit of armor here it's odd. I think this one might sort of, well, some people who just prefer kind of warmer, more simple armor might like this recolor. And also note that the, I was going to say the shoulder recolor, or the shoulder asymmetry wasn't as great, but maybe something popped in there, I'm not too sure. Hey, I've been up for far too long, I'm going a little bit delirious. Still a really cool bit of armor, and finally let's go to this recolor, which is one of my favorite. I really like the white wolf fur. I think that sort of brings out a lot of nice colors, and it does a great deal for the, I don't want to say the lighting, obviously, because, wolf's fur doesn't radiate light, but the shading, the color palette of this, I think, is brought up a little bit by that burst of white. Okay, so next, let's have a look at plate armor, and I think the plate armor is actually extremely good looking, especially for questing gear. Look at this thing. It's like nicely detailed. It's really well done in terms of all the little scars and sort of clunks into the metal. I think this thing is damn fantastic, actually. I like the helm quite a bit. I like the shoulders. I like the kind of the way that these are parallel, these kind of horn jutting out thingies. I think that's really nice. It doesn't have a humongous WWE belt that sticks out. It's funny, actually, if this was a bit of tier armor, this belt here would be a separate 3D model that would kind of occupy this space, and I think it looks better for being small like that. So absolutely, that is a really cool bit of gear, and I definitely prefer the first recolor over this second, more reddish one. The reddish one is just a little bit more samey for me. Once again, I think there's this problem where when Blizzard have metal and red, they seem to go with this like kind of rusted grey look, whereas if it's like you have white and gold, which I think is a little bit more compelling. Okay, then finally we have this, which is 100% white, bar the black parts of it, and I actually think it's kind of cool for that. There's some people who are really going to like a white recolor of a piece of armor. People will like maybe how the light shines off it or something like that. And yeah, look, just a really nice bit of gear. And if you are trudging around Frostfire Ridge, well, hey, at least you'll be a little bit camouflaged. Alright, then finally we have this, which partially looks like it was taken from straight out of the Burning Crusade, Wrath of the Lich King, in terms of its styling, but I think it's really nice. The horns are perhaps a tad giant. I could see that this being a bit of a problem. You couldn't move your head with a great deal of freedom. You couldn't really crunch your shoulders or anything like that if you're wearing this bit of armor. You kind of run into troubles. Though, if you wanted to headbutt someone, you would definitely be in luck, or maybe, I don't know, shoulder sweep them or something. Still, it's a pretty cool bit of armor. I don't really like this second recolor as much, and I think finally this third recolor has got a little bit more just sort of life to it because of the shining off the middle part of the armor that it has a little bit more of than some of the other recolors. And that's basically it. Look, I think some of this armor is really nice, especially the leather, most of the leather, the mail, and the plate. If they can just continue along this trend of armor that is slightly I don't want to say realistic, but I guess armor that is designed to make sense within the world in which it will be worn, in terms of how there's lots of nice little fur pads and things like that. I think if they just go with that aesthetic, at least for the questing experience, I think that'll just be really nice. It'll fit, it'll be atmospheric enough to work. And yeah, overall, really cool stuff. Be sure to let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.